All right, welcome back to the channel. It's a cold November day here, and we got a little bit of work to do on the excavator, particularly in the bucket and down here in the quick connect. Let me bring you in, show you what we're up against. Okay, so I forgot to turn the camera on sooner, but this is the wedge bar quick connect system here for the bucket. Something is going on here. I've got wear all the way around this thing, whereas the bucket ears only come in from the backside around that thing. So this is spinning. This should not be spinning. It's worn down. My buckets are fitting like crap and wobbling around. And this side here is completely worn out. So I'm pretty sure a weld broke here, but I am going to pop it apart, figure out what's going on, because there's no way that can spin, obviously, unless it's freed up more than it should be. So I've got the pins pulled out here, and I'm just about to try and get this thing off. That might... No, I still got too much pressure on there. I'll fire up the excavator and shake that thing off of there, and hopefully the thumb stays put. I've got it kind of just ratchet strapped back, and the way I've got it situated here, it's more or less just hanging on the pin there. So I think I'm all right, but we'll find out in a minute. Alrighty, here we go. Okay, let's give this a try here. What's the worst that could happen? There she goes. Careful, careful, gentle. Boing. Yeah, see, that's not supposed to fall off. Did you see that? Well, all right. That's it. That broke off, obviously, so we need to do some welding. So let's get this into the shop. Probably going to want to push that bushing out, I guess, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to build up the diameter on that. It's probably worn way too much, so I'll want to restore that. So clean up, bushing out, inspect, and yeah, we'll formulate our plan of attack from there. All right, well, I started working on this on the weekend. Things just go from bad to worse. Didn't take me long to figure this out. That is supposed to be a press fit. So that's why you don't hammer with your bucket. That is completely shagged out, so got to make another couple new ones. The other side was the same, so I chopped that off, started doing a little carving with a plasma cutter there to figure out what diameter this is here. So I think I got that figured out. And I need to carve another couple new ones. So it was the weekend when I started on that. Of course, everything's closed, but I managed to grab myself a chunk of steel, big chunk of steel, and I have parted off a couple pieces, got them roughed into the OD, 1.25" hole plugged in there, just because that's the largest size drill bit that I own. This is the remainder of what I bought there. Big chunk of 5 3/4" steel. Apparently that was like some ship shafting or something like that. Anyway, whatever. Cuts pretty nice. Not too unhappy with that. So I'll throw these back in the lathe and start boring out the ID. I've got a couple new bearings on order. And I think we got, what are we, 5.5 OD. Oh yeah, and the bearings are 95 millimeters. So I need to punch those out to 95 mils. All right, time for more boring work. Okay, all my boring work is done, and it was boring. These I left a millimeter small so that I can punch them out to the final size once I have the new bearings, bushings. I keep saying bearings. Once I have the bushings in my hot little hand, so I know exactly what I want to punch them out to. I'm not making any assumptions about parts these days. I got this step down there, so that will press into the frame. I found the original bore in there. Right down here, I carefully picked away at what was welded in there and found, you can see the virgin material there, the original bore. That's about 4 5/8, so I managed to carve out the rest of it around there. It would have been welded. Speaking of welding, you can see that this thing broke off at one time. You can see the crack there and here. Somebody repaired that, but it looks like they did it in place because obviously you can see those little gaps there and at the bottom where they wouldn't have been able to get in down underneath the lug that would have been sitting right on there at the time. So I'm gonna take a little time to gouge out a bit of that and make sure that that's welded solid all the way through. So we got that, and then I'm gonna reclaim this and the other side, those bores, with the line boring machine. I think I'm gonna set it up here, just to make sure I get everything straight. I think that'll be a nice way to make sure everything stays lined up. So I'll do that, weld the lugs in place, and then I think I'm also going to finish out the final bore for those bushings in place with the line boring machine, just to make sure everything's straight and true. Otherwise, I'm a little worried I'll weld those lugs on there and something will warp and they won't go in quite straight, and then my pin, big pin there, ain't gonna fit in nicely. So I think that's the plan from here. However, first, I just remembered, I need to do the grease zerk prep on these things. So that'll be the next thing I do here. I'll go throw those in the milling machine and punch a couple holes in there for grease fittings. All right, let's get that done. Okay, working on chasing this crack out. You may or may not be able to see down in there. I wonder if I can focus here. There we go. Down in the bottom there is a crack. I've chased it out halfway through this, and I am not sure if this is the original crack that they didn't quite get penetration on all the way through, or if it's the new crack or the old crack reappearing here. But anyway, I think I'm gonna weld up like top half, and then maybe I'll back cut it from the other side and get the rest of it yet. Then I got to do the top half here yet too. So, all right, let's go get some hot glue, stick it back together. All right, welding done. This is upside down from what I showed you just a second ago. This side wasn't near so bad. It was only just a bunch of porosity kind of in this immediate area. It didn't come through to this side over here. This side, I'm pretty happy with how that welded up. I don't think I'm gonna carve that out from the other side now. I'm just gonna leave that as is. So yeah, now it's time to set up the line boring machine, I guess. Okay, made a little progress. Got my grease fittings drilled in there now. Bushings showed up this morning, so I went to pick those up. Those are in fact a little bit oversized, which is good. That'll give me even a little bit more room to bore out on here. These are sitting at 1 mil undersize. So once I get everything all set up, I'll get those welded in and punched out. So that means setting up the boring bar time. So I wanted to make sure I got this deadly bright. I didn't want to take any chances with it. I had some ideas about how to set it up, and then I came up with a better idea. So what I did, I want to make sure that this axis ends up being exactly parallel to this axis here. So my table is nice and flat, that I know. So I just spaced that up with two blocks there. So I know that the pin is now parallel with the table. So then I made a couple spacers to fit under here, welded these in place. So those are now parallel with that pin and at the right height for putting this in the center of the bore vertically. And then forward and back here, what I did is I made a little bar here. So and I machined it so it's exactly the right distance between the 1 3/4 bar and the 90 mil pin. So that sets my distance exactly, which is critical because that's what the lugs for the quick change rely on. So now I've got that in place here, set up. This is, if we just push these tight here, that tightens everything up, and that's my position. Simple as that. So I'll get the bearings, get these welded on, and we can start boring. Oh, except that I want to make myself a little tool for measuring my my inside diameter once I've made the cut and while the boring bar is still in place. So I got to make a quick little tool. Although I think I got to run to town and either grab a tap or grab some fine thread bolts. So I'll get that quickly knocked out and get to work here. All right, making some progress. So I've got this all set up and ready to start making some cuts. So I strapped this thing down to my milling machine because it's the biggest, heaviest chunk of metal I've got in the shop. Hopefully that helps with reducing some vibration and chatter, stiffen things up. I don't know, we'll see. I might have to add another bearing in the middle here. But yeah, we'll see. Hard to say until you get the first cuts going. So my little apparatuses hanging on the side there that I made for spacing that bar out worked perfectly. I made the setup like a breeze. Real happy with that. So now I've got that running exactly true with the pin in the back. And yeah, all that's left, throw a tool bit in and make some cuts. Oh yeah, I took a few minutes to make myself a little tool here. It's not much, it's just a screw in the end of a piece of 1/2 inch diameter steel. That'll drop in through there. It'll fit right through. I got to disassemble it to do it, but anyway, it'll work like an inside micrometer there. Adjust this to fit. That sort of idea. Yeah, so ready to go here, except that I have to run off and go finish some framing on a house I'm building. Darn day job getting in the way of all my fun here. So yeah, we'll see if I have any time left over after that to start making some cuts. Making progress, slow progress, but at least we're going forward. Okay, got a couple more hours to throw at this thing. Finished boring it out. You can see there on the outside perimeter. And I just finished flame cutting out a bit of a bevel on there. Just cleaning it up with the grinder right now. And that'll give me a good back bevel to weld this out. So I'll just finish that out and then we can finally press in those bosses. All right, that was a bit of work. I finally got these things installed. Went not too bad. I made sure that things were nice and tight, which necessitated having to use a check-all thread to suck those things into place, which actually worked pretty good once I got her in there. So those are in and lined up. Next step here is to obviously weld them in place. So I got that all beveled out nicely. I think I did find some old porosity in there. You can see from the previous installation, the original installation. So I'm just going to clean that up a tiny bit before I actually start laying beads in there. So yeah, throw some 7018 at this stuff and then strap her back down on the mill and line bore out the ID here to final size for my bushings. And yeah, after that, press in the bushings and we're off to the races. Install that thing back on the machine. good to be getting closer. These turned out real nice. I'm pretty happy with how that all went together there. So, yeah, that's it for tonight. I ran out of time this weekend. Too much going on, man. So I will do that maybe tomorrow after work or something. I can throw a little time at this again. All right, I'll bring you back in when we get to the next step.